I think we now have to turn to notes on a Nuzzi scandal because, like, this is a rich text here. I've been following the story. Olivia Nuzzi, was sort of fired from New York Magazine following revelations of a sort of sexting affair she carried on with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. while he was running for president. We've seen the dissolution of her relationship to Ryan Lizzo, a sort of a rebirth on the West Coast, and just now rising like a phoenix from the ashes of a fire. We have Olivia Nuzzi and her new book, American Kanto, which is sort of her memoir about her crash out.
Kanto. Jesus Christ.
I know, right? Isn't that like...
Lady, can you get over yourself?
I know. It's really... though, but I gotta say, I know this is like the trendy contrarian opinion to take, and I know she violated a lot of, what are supposedly journalistic ethics when you're, covering politics. But you know what? Like, compared to every other journalist out there and the way they operate, I can't really say Olivia Nuzzi is like too much worse. And in fact, is in a lot of ways probably better. And like, there's something about her, like, I have to say it, I think she kind of owns. Like, I have, like, after the last week or so, like, she is like the Tweety Bird meme, but instead of the cops, it's elderly politicians.
I like on both points agree. Like, how is she worse than Edward Isaac Devore?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, either get rid of them all, or like, yeah, how is she worse? And she, like, I didn't really put two and two together until this week, until the release of American Kanto. She's like, I don't want to be rude here, but she is very much like a Grand Theft Auto character, like a GTA 5 character. My dad was in the mafia, and I became a reporter so I could fuck all the guys in politics. Like, really, lady? I work for the Blowjob Times. I'm late to work because there's a traffic jam on the Group Sex Bridge.
And like, obviously, anytime you have like a young woman sort of using her sexuality or like sexuality connected to her job or profession, people get all riled up about it. I will say, though, out of every character in this story, the only hoe displaying female tendencies is Ryan Lizzo, her ex-fucking boyfriend. Because, like, yes, the rather clever revelation in his piece that she did this also with Mark Sanford was pretty funny, but it's just like, dude, you cannot waterboard that shit out of me.
Ryan,
you've been cuckolded by Mark Sanford and RFK Jr.? Bro.
Ryan, how many subscribers does fucking Ryan Lizzo have? Like, how... No amount of money is worth it, but especially like for $67,000 a year, it is especially not worth it to just go into a room full of people every day and go, "Hey, everyone, I was also cuckolded by Eric Cantor."
And like, speaking of the Epstein emails, how about fucking Michael Wolff, who's just in those emails, like working with Epstein on how to rehabilitate his image, like
fire and fury, right? Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I can't get too upset over any of the ethical boundaries transgressed by a young reporter here. But like, let's just dive into the writing, because I got to talk about just beginning with like there's a couple pieces. I want to read some excerpts from her book. I want to read some excerpts from Ryan Lizzo's article, but also I want to begin here with the New York Times profile of her that came out the other week. And once again, like I have sort of a sort of an admiration for Nuzzi and like her sort of refusal to like ever go away or have her career be ruined by any of her own behavior. But like I do have to fault the New York Times for like the fawning way that they cover this story in her, as will become apparent in this reading selection. This is from the New York Times, the continuing story of Olivia Nuzzi. Olivia Nuzzi loved him. She loved the politician, even though she was a political reporter and he was a then presidential candidate she had written about. She loved his eyes, blue as the flame. She loved that the sight of something as trivial as a rose could move him to tears. She loved his insatiable appetites and his particular complications and particular darkness. He's like, this is the politician, of course, being RFK Jr. It says, this is what Nuzzi writes in her book, American Kanto. Never naming the politician, readers will deduce is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
I've read Ezra Pound. You're no Ezra Pound, okay?
At the height of the 2024 presidential campaign, Nuzzi seemed to have a digital affair with Kennedy that revolved around texts and phone calls. The revelation derailed her career, led to her firing at New York Magazine, and precipitated a very public explosion of her relationship with another prominent political journalist. Kennedy tried to brush her off, saying he had met her just once for the hit piece she wrote, and through his support behind Donald J. Trump, eventually becoming a cabinet secretary in his administration. Nuzzi disappeared for a year in self-imposed exile in Los Angeles, where she wrote American Kanto in secret. The book, which comes out December 2nd and is described here for the first time, paints a picture of a nation and a personal life on fire. She describes the mutual infatuation that consumed her, even as it was never consummated. She is ambiguous in the book, but said in one of many interviews, "We were not sleeping together." But American Kanto is far more about bearing witness to Trump world and how she believes that warped her just as it warped the country. I mean, like, this reminds me of like having to write like a personal essay or something for like a college admission and just relating everything. You know, it's just sort of like, is this book about my disgrace and rather embarrassing affair with a public figure? Yes, but it's also about how that sort of mirrors the country and what's going on with Donald Trump and the world. It's about the way we live today. I did really enjoy the description of RFK Jr. as someone whose eyes were as blue as flame and could be brought to tears by something as simple as a rose, and also someone with insatiable appetites.
I have always liked the, he was a man of many appetites thing. That is one of my favorite tropes of, historical writing that isn't like quite like Ron Chernow level, where it's the highest tier of airport history. But I always loved when, there was a robber baron who was a big fat guy like J.P. Morgan, and they would talk about him like he was Andre the Giant. He was a man of enormous appetites. And they describe J.P. Morgan eating like 64 oysters and then porking a 19-year-old.
I always think about it to do a little Chapo archiving. In one of the first maybe 10 episodes, you do a reading series on Scalia, like doming some Republican flacks into, yes, eating like 64 oysters before dinner. And in that article, the Republican flacks refer to Scalia as a man of tremendous appetites for exactly
Big
the same
pig.
Yes.
But it's weird with RFK though, because he kind of isn't a man with enormous appetites in that way. He's just like a guy who raped his babysitter and made his wife kill herself. Otherwise he just eats like Ezekiel bread and bugs. He isn't like a gourmand. He's just like a rapist.
Yeah, it's like he could be brought to tears by something as simple as a rose, but like, childhood polio or measles, don't bother him with that shit. He's tired of all these whiners.
Yeah.
So it says here, sitting under a pine tree in Los Angeles one night last month, Nuzzi gave up the pretense of trying to explain the unexplainable and reached for a joke for the people who simply could not fathom what came over her. Maybe it was the vaccines. Woo! Hamburger. Hamburger.
I ain't scared of y'all motherfuckers.
This is one of my favorite details in the piece, though. It says, Nuzzi, 32, lives in a tiny house in the heart of Malibu where lizards crawl into her kitchen. And the King James Bible and the Divine Comedy, 2 books she was reading while she was writing American Kanto, sit on her dining room table. She drives around in a white Mustang convertible, like a Lana Del Rey song come to life. It's just like, this is comparing someone to a real life Lana Del Rey song is just like, can you believe how cool and otherworldly this woman is? There are lizards in her kitchen. And oh my God, the Divine Comedy and the King James Bible. Can you believe how well read she is? I was thinking of the Divine Comedy, but starring RFK Jr. Midway through the journey of life, I found myself in a dark forest. It was then that I discovered a deer carcass and I ate its brain to cure my Bell's palsy.
I've always been amazed by this phenomenon where like there will be one political reporter who isn't like a Gorgon, and they'll be like the hottest, coolest person ever. It's like, yeah, okay, I get, yeah, she's prettier than Edward Isaac DeVore. If we're gonna, keep using him as a comparison point, but like this is this is not a cool or interesting person outside of the context of political reporting.
Exactly. And what annoys me about this is that usually journalists have like a huge stick up their ass about their fucking ethics and supposed violations of those ethics. They're like, you would get like crucified or fired if you like, didn't anonymously quote the Israeli military, for instance. But like this woman like did the one of the one things that you're not supposed to do. The one thing we didn't want to happen. And like the New York Times is treating her, like I said, like a real life Lana Del Rey song. Oh my God, she's like Joan Didion. She's living in Malibu as this kind of like, like a sort of a Norma Desmond figure who's only 32 years old.
That's the other thing. There's also like the people who are defending her, or the people who more aptly go, I'm not defending her, but they love this idea that like she's a uniquely tragic figure.
They're bringing all this pathos out of this, yeah.
Right, the thing they always bring up is like her mom and dad died in the same year. And it's like, oh my, I didn't know she was a 32-year-old orphan.
She has Marty Funkhauser syndrome.
Yeah, can we cut the shit with this? I am so sick of this. I remember a few years ago, I saw like a 40-something-year-old guy who he said people were making fun of one of his pictures, and he went, oh yeah? Well, this was actually the week where I had to go to my grandmother's funeral. And it's like, is there an expectation that like all of our family members are going to live to 500?
Going on a little bit in the article, she says here, a politician's greatest trick is to convince you that he is not one, Nuzzi writes in her book. And what is a politician? Any man who wants to be loved more than other men, and through his pursuit reveals why he cannot love himself.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. I know I've been defending her to a certain degree, but I would like to say it on the record. Her writing is dog shit. Like her profiles are good because she always gets good detail, but like when an editor gives her this kind of free reign, her writing is really boring. Is really bad. It's like really overwritten and stupid.
It's very evil Lisa Simpson.
Nuzzi says in the book that her romantic entanglement, if one can refer to a digital relationship that way, with the politician began after she wrote about him in an article published in November 2023. At the time, she was engaged to the political writer Ryan Lizza. A Quinnipiac University poll had Kennedy, who was running as an independent candidate, polling around 20% in a three-way hypothetical election matchup against Trump and Biden. She described riding with him around Los Angeles in his stinky mess of a van as he drove recklessly on the road and yelled at his dogs. I remember we did that piece on the show, and it was very funny because they were like, yeah, here's this maniac who smells like shit, but like there's something about his blue flame eyes and sort of his rapturous appetites that's
the weird thing. Like that, she keeps talking about his eyes, and if you look at any picture of RFK, he has the freakiest, like soulless doll eyes. There is nothing going on behind those things.
She writes that the first few times Kennedy said he loved her, she did not say it back. Yet she knew she felt the same. I love him, I thought. Oh no, I love him so much. They spoke often and were intimate enough for her to see him flossing his teeth, his DOP kit overflowing with prescriptions. She writes that, this is one of my favorite details here. She writes that despite being sober for decades, sober in quotation marks, Kennedy told her that he still uses psychedelics and even smoked DMT, a powerful drug which people are known to have what feel like near-death experiences. She told him, I like uppers. I told him that I took Adderall. I just like that detail because, like, I don't think you can claim to be sober if you are doing DMT. It's like the most powerful hallucinogen known to man.
Yeah,
and like also, don't you get drug tested if you work for the federal government too?
Do you think they're doing that?
Of course not. Of course not.
Like, after Ronnie Jackson, like, I think, but my favorite non-Mnuchin Trump one figure, by the way. But yeah, I do not think they're doing that. But I will say this should put to bed, if it hasn't been put to bed already, the idea that like psychedelics can make you a better person or interesting or anything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Or that there's some spiritual revelation to be had in like taking huge amounts of psychedelic drugs. It's like it'll only enhance the person you already were before. Like it's only looking at a mirror of yourself. And the fact that like RFK has just become more of himself, obviously.
You know what I hate about psychedelics the most is when someone you know gets too into them, they always ruin their life in like a way that's like admittedly usually pretty funny. But whenever these guys do it, whenever it's like a tech guy or RFK or someone, they never fuck up their life. Like
No.
Yeah, they just keep doing the same shit.
Now I've skipped ahead now, and this is actually excerpts from American Kanto. Okay, so this is Nuzzi's own writing now. I would take a bullet for you, the politician said. He always said that. Please don't say that, I said. I always said that.
Grow up.
From his mouth, the bullet theoretical launched the bullet possible. I did not like to think about it, about the armed man at his speech, or the armed man who broke into his home, or the armed men he paid to guard him from armed men who sought to harm him, while the federal government denied his pleas for protection from the security agency whose modern protocols were carved by the same bullets that cut boughs from his family tree and cut the track of the American experiment. You know, like, I know repetition is like useful as a literary device sometimes, but like, I would take a bullet for you, the politician said. He always said that. Please don't say that, I said. I always said that. Felix, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of late era Noriega's rapping style, where he was like, I can't believe I fucked up and made a half-ass album. My excuse is my pops just died. I didn't want to make music. My pops just died.
I mean, literally. Yeah.
That is...
I was gonna say it reminds me of like when Jules Santana would he had to make a song with Cameron, but it was like way too deep into his lean addiction, and so he would get on a song and he would go, Shorty hated him because he ran the pack back, but he was always gonna run the pack back. He went on the block and he ran the pack back. Damn, I forgot to run the pack back.
Going forward in American Kanto, she writes, I did not like to think about it, just as later, I would not like to think about the worm in his brain that other people found so funny. I loved his brain. I hated the idea of an intruder therein. Others thought he was a madman. He was not quite mad the way they thought, but I love the private ways that he was mad. I love the way, I love that he was insatiable in all ways, as if he would swallow up the whole world just to know it better if he could. He made me laugh, but I winced when he joked about the worm. Don't worry, he said, it's not a worm. A doctor he trusted had reviewed the scans of his brain obtained by the New York Times, he said, and concluded that the shadowy figure was likely not a parasite at all. He sighed. It was too late to interfere with what had already vaulted from the sphere of meme to the sphere of screwy legend. But at least I did not have to worry about the worm that was not a worm in his brain.
More repetition. It's great writing.
It's like, all right, fine. Like, literary pretension's very, very excruciating, but try to resist the hackneyed, riddling with cliches, fucking leet speak, slang. You know, just, if you're like you're a great novelist, you know, a man of letters, like, just challenge, like, don't descend of cheap cliche. You know?
Yeah.
Figure a word of phrase that the challenge, like a way that are today, not brainworms, you fucking lazy trollop.
What I love about that, the detail I love here, is he says, baby, don't worry, it's not a worm. A doctor he trusted reviewed the scans of his brain. Okay, if it's a doctor that RFK Jr. personally trusts, you can be guaranteed that this is a complete quack.
Yeah, this is a doctor that like cooks people in a giant pot over a
He was cutting turnips into a big iron, a huge stew pot.
Yeah, she also says, like, she talks about how like she hates how people think he's like crazy, and like the worm is a big joke to them, and she's afraid of how the worm will like damage his amazing brain. What are his great ideas, Olivia?
Yeah, I know. I mean,
like, what are those? But like, and by the way, I love this. I hate how people make this a big joke. You know, his serious illness. I would hate that if someone took a serious illness or a
Yeah,
group of serious
exactly.
illnesses and just turned it into like a fun diversion for themselves, just a stupid hobby that they had no real background or special knowledge in, but they just, for their own enjoyment were like, hey, what if your kid had polio? That would really suck, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And part of the excerpt, the excerpts that's been is, of course, she's out in California, and like she sort of writes this chapter as she's documenting how many acres are being burned in like a wildfire. So it's like she writes here, on the coast, the street lights and traffic lights and the lights in the big windows of the big houses turned to black. It was not until I made my way up to Zuma that I saw the fire had been right behind me. The pink clouds puffed up to the south. Then the flames peaked over the hill. The sky grew lighter, and the fire swelled and made its way to the sea. I watched from the deck as the night turned orange. How many like the rattlesnake, his little soul swallowed without ceremony in one breath? And where would the coyotes go? They did not walk across the deck and leap into the garden tonight. 12:40 a.m., 100 acres burning. I stand on the edge of the earth. I wander through the burned up grasslands. Any fantasy of creation I understand as a fantasy of destruction too. In every spark of life, an ember of death. A trillion little deaths a minute, quickly collecting around your ankles, tethering you to the beach, dividing you from the sea, off the cliff over the Mediterranean and onto the cliff over the Pacific. 2:15 a.m., 850 acres burning.
You know, your wife is a smack addict. Like, it's like a, tortured soul. It's not, a high literary quality, just convey the deep soul, like Tempest, it's like you're fucking like heroin addict. Who cares?
You're dating. You had a sexting affair with a smackhead who's like trail of dead ex-wives and girlfriends is like, of which you are merely the latest casualty, and should probably be counting yourself lucky that you got out with just getting fired from New York Magazine. And that's the other thing that annoys me is at the end of the New York Times profile, she writes here, I made a joke about how Adams, she's saying, like, what better way to memorialize Zoran Mandani's win than to capture it through the eyes of the evening's ultimate loser, its incumbent mayor. I made a joke about how Adams had seemingly thrown away his life just to fly business class. Nuzzi shrugged. I destroyed mine for less, she said. You were just made head of Vanity Fair on the West Coast. Like, you haven't destroyed shit. It sounds like you had a year vacation in Malibu and are now right back at it. Price of the pack just went up, Olivia.
Dude, but like by destroy my life, does she means like broke her engagement with Ryan Lizzo? Oh my, I had it all. Another thing. Okay, first of all, like, is Cheryl Hines the rare woman with a humiliation fetish?
She's got a book out now too.
Oh my God. She's like, if she was younger, she would be the only woman who does this thing that I've only ever seen guys do, where they will find like a girl with a big account on Twitter, Instagram, and send them a picture of their horrible mangled cock. And be like, oh, isn't my dick pretty pathetic? Cheryl Hines would be the only woman who's like, isn't my pussy gross? I hope you don't make fun of it on the timeline.
I've seen RFK Jr. It was a shirt off, right? And his nipples is very, very, very disturbing. Imagine like the dick, like a corkscrew thinking.
It's like a duck.
Yeah, no, thank you.
One time, I won't say who this was. So a friend showed me this guy who was like really, really trying hard with her in DMs once. And she said, brace yourself. This is the most horrifying dick pic you will ever see. And no joke, this guy's cock looked like a bonsai tree. And I think that if I had to bet what RFK's setup looks like, it's probably that.
It's like viewing rotten.com.
Yeah. Without Rotten Encyclopedia or Library or whatever the fuck it was called. One more thing though, just while I was hearing this incredibly overwrought passage, I thought about Nausgard and how much I love those books. Those those books on a service level, you could say it's similar, even though they're infinitely better written. But they're really, I love those books because like he does do that thing where you have like a minute by minute accounting of his internal monologue and his feeling state and just every tiny conflict pushing and pulling him through these various events in his life. But that book is great because its point kind of is like, no, these events aren't significant just because you feel a lot of things. That's sort of the central joke of it that I like so much. And this is just like, this is the zenith of like this form of first person writing, where just because it happened to me, it is of the utmost significance. And because
to the whole country.
Because I am a little embarrassed. I am the most downtrodden, tragic, sexy, heroic figure ever.
And it's just like, this is sort of like how I got sort of seduced by Trump world along with the whole nation. It's like, speak for yourself, lady.
I hate the false humility of it too. Like where it's like I guess we all got taken for a ride. And it's like, no, there's nothing like sexy or tragic about this. You're a fucking loser. This is fun. If you can admit that this is funny and ridiculous and gross and that like all journalists, you're kind of a social reject and a fuck up, then and maybe this would be a good book. But this Lana Del Rey shit, like, can you give it a fucking break, lady?
And Felix, like the sort of this sort of self-deprecating jokes she makes about herself, like maybe it was the vaccines or I ruined my life for less. Like they don't really land because it's very clear that she's like she's not playing this for laughs. She's not like. Like making herself an object of, satire or absurdity of how about how absurd being a political journalist is and how particularly humorous her career has been. You can tell it hurts her. And that's why she's making these little jokes that but that are like drenched in pathos,
There's a version of this book that is very funny that I would probably like a lot. It could not be farther from the one that actually exists.
Well, I would just like to say, reiterating my original point, cheers to Olivia Nuzzi for running a sweet lick on Keith Olbermann, Ryan Lizza, Mark Sanford, RFK Jr., New York Magazine, Vanity Fair Magazine now, and whatever publisher paid her for this dog shit. But cheers to whatever editor, whoever was responsible for editing American Kanto, as I've returned now to this reading. I worry about evil. If it is a force, if it is like the Santa Ana winds, if it may come on suddenly, if it may grab hold, if I may depart but not completely, if I may leave word, if the word might sound good, if I might again believe it, the snake charmer, the man-eater, the devil himself. Was it ever a question that where there was a smoke, there would be a dagger?
The beast.
A friend told me once, never trust anyone wearing a lapel pin. The politician did not wear one of those. Midnight, 3,000 acres burning.
Your dad was in the mafia. Your dad was a mafia trash guy, and you worked for Paul Carr. Do you think you're Lord Byron?
All right, it goes on and on and on like this.
They say that man tamed fire. But I felt as though fire had tamed this man. But he could never be tamed. The velvet is strewn between his legs. Like, you are fucking the husband of Curb Your Enthusiasm star Cheryl Hines. He's leaving kratom stains on the Climpton bedsheets.
I'm just going to read the end of the excerpt from American Kanto. Certain dramas you can count on. Empires fall at last, heroes fail at first. And here I mean to tell you that character is not what you are in the end. Character is the things you cannot outrun or outgun that spars with fate all along. I refer now to my own, witness and witnessed. When I slipped, I was swallowed whole, straight through the plot, under the blade of the devices and out the other side. I mean to tell you that this is more meaningful and more meaningless than you might think. Thanks for that, Olivia. I was so getting concerned. I mean to tell you that but before I was consumed by it. I could not have told you what it was. The flag winked beside the lanes that bent to the borders, that faded to barriers, that fell to the lines. I crossed. I am talking, of course, about how it happened between me and the politician. I am talking, of course, about how it happened between the country and the president. I cannot talk about one without the other. When I open my eyes, I see it still, the blur of colors, the flash of red, of blue, of white. I mean to tell you now as best I can. That was some real
Terrible.
shit.
Thumbs down.
Dog shit.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
It's like, dude, if you're a journalist, don't try to be a literary writer. Like, there's like 4 people on earth who can do that, and it's just like, don't even bother. Like, I don't know, like an absurd, like a sort of like something that acknowledged the absurdity of your own situation and like was sort of self-deprecating about it in a genuine way, but like that documented it with all this unbearable pretension about how your life is both meaningless and meaningful to the whole country. The flag as it warps and weaves in the wind, the Santa Ana winds, the wind from the politician. I don't know, like, you know, but without further ado, I really want to read Ryan Lizzo's response. And I love that like journalists are doing like rap beefs now. Like they're like, yo, you got to hear the Lizzo response to Nuzzi's new book. Because
there's a lot of that. Michael Wolff and Tara Palmieri have a beef that admittedly I got too bored with in the first paragraph. But
Yeah.
it is very much, it's like the Bush era blogosphere again.
Yeah. So this is Ryan Lizzo's response on his Substack called Telos News.
Oh, fuck you. You guys, they were perfect
In the
for each
beginning,
other.
there's the word.
Yeah. It is actually kind of sad that they split up because they were a perfect couple. Like, I think that he should have operated on a 3-strike system. Like, the RFK thing should have been, you know, final warning. But, like, they are meant to be together and, you know, run a blog called, like, Poseidon's Trident.
I think him and Cheryl Hines should get together. That would be the ultimate capstone to this story.
Yeah.
This is part 1, how I found out. Olivia had just returned from a reporting trip. At least that's what she told me. And her Herschel backpack, the one with the flap that never quite closed properly, was tossed beside our bed, its contents scattered on the floor. That's when I noticed the sheets of the Kimpton Hotel stationery that would alter the course of our lives. It is surreal now to think back to that room, the one overlooking the courtyard garden that became a metaphor for our decade-long entanglement. It was dazzling during spring's full bloom and foreboding when winter stripped of all signs of life. I think, like, I think everyone in this story has a brain worm.
Yeah,
like, Ryan Lizzo's writing is just as dog shit as her. It's so fucking overdone, so turgid and overdone.
Can you guys, like, you guys could have done community theater. Like, I always think of, when I read writing like this, but this stuff, like this especially, that scene in Bowfinger, where after they all figure out Steve Martin's lying to them, and they ask like the older actress like what she thinks, and she goes, "I thought it was a beautiful lie."
It goes, and lurking underground, way in the back, was the invasive bamboo, which grows like a cancer, and if not tamed, would march through the entire courtyard and kill anything. Just get to the tea! Get to the goss, you fucking bitch! I can't stand this shit. Get to the part where the former South Carolina governor Mark Sanford cuckolded you
Get to
years
the
before.
gnarled hog.
I want to hear about the Republican class of '94 running a train on your wife.
I spent hours hacking at the sprouts to keep the bamboo at bay, just as I had with all the secrets that Olivia and I shared. Shut the fuck
This
up.
is one of the worst metaphors I've ever heard.
This is humiliating, dog. He doesn't deserve it, but he needs bro care. Like, you know what I mean? Like, as
Bro care,
as bad as she may have treated this gentleman, Ryan Lizzo, the way to respond to this would just be like, truth will out. You know, time will tell. I don't need to add to this. And when someone asks you about Olivia Nuzzi in your relationship, just say, I wish her the best in the future. Like, living well is the best revenge. Coming out like he is. This is hoe-ass tendencies right here. Putting all his dirt and putting all the dirt from a former relationship out there because she got a better book deal than you did, based off of your own humiliation, is like, dog. That is just, come on, bro. Come on.
Has some self-respect.
I would
Oh,
say
man.
that the people involved in this have too much of that.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's not self-respect, but self-regard, certainly. Like with Ryan and Lizza, it's like, Ryan, no one is here for you. They want to hear about your depressing and hilarious dalliance and the way it ended. No one is going, oh, well, I usually read Ryan Lizza for his sterling analysis of the political scene, but I guess I'm interested in how this ended. Thank God Ryan can decorate it with his lovely prose.
I can still picture the hotel paper and reporting notepad spilling into the walk-in closet, where a year earlier I had spent an afternoon on my knees, carefully arranging scores of her boots, high-heel sneakers, and slippers on an enormous shoe rack. Olivia almost cried when she saw the results. Nobody has ever done anything like that for me. Dude, do you think that this makes you sympathetic? They're like, when people find out about me toiling on my hands and knees organizing Olivia's shoe closet, they'll surely feel bad for how... It's like, dude, you are a sucker. I want to cheat on you, man. I want to fucking date you and then get tore up by fucking Eric Cantor or fucking Tom DeLay.
Yeah. This is the only man in a heterosexual relationship to be cuckolded by Mark Foley, and you can see why.
Right? No, Ryan Lizzo, instead of writing like thousands of words on this, he could have just simply said, "You're talking to me about the lighting of the movie, and when Olivia's got Mark Sanford's ass in her cock in the fucking driveway."
Ryan Lizzo ruins last ever White House press correspondence.
Drive a seat. It is tempting now to forget all those moments. Oh, yes, lost like tears in the rain. It is tempting now to forget all those moments, to see it as a lost decade, and to cast her as a cartoon villain. After all, she deceived me for a year and smeared me with false allegations. And not just little lies, but big fantastical falsehoods. Blackmail. A former child actor, Olivia always has a keen sense for the dramatic. She orchestrated a plot with the help of a senior Trump official to try to have me imprisoned, and now she's written what appears...
Are you the fucking Count of Monte Cristo?
Yes.
Jesus.
I remember the first time Ryan Lizza came to Shawshank Penitentiary.
He would really be fucked because, like, how could he possibly help the guards with anything? Wait, sir, do you have a really bad article you need to write?
Get busy living or get busy dying, right? Get busy writing. Goes, so yes, I have reason to be annoyed, maybe even a little angry. You think maybe a little angry? You think maybe you're a little bit pissed off about this, Ryan? I don't know. However, despite my many faults, I recognize the pitfalls of relying on anger as the fuel for accountability. Those who cling to thinking he abused me, he struck me, he defeated me, he robbed me, never still their hatred, the Buddha said. So I unspool this strange tale over the coming days. I'll do my best not to let anger or pettiness guide me. And I hope you, dear readers, will hold me to that. Fail. You've already... And like, once again, the human thing to do, if you were going to like air out your old relationships, dirty laundry on a national scale like this, is to just be like, admit up front, I am going to be a petty ass bitch right now, and I'm going to torch this fucking woman for all the hell she put me through, even after I organized her fucking shoe closet for her. Get ready for some hot piping drama, because I'm going to fucking... I'm writing only out of anger and spite right now, so let's fucking get to it.
Just like how, like, there is no universe where Olivia's story is, like, poetic and tragic and beautiful. There's no universe where there's like a high-minded way to write this. Like, the high-minded way to write this is to not.
It's to not write it and just say, like I said, I wish her the best with her career and relationships. That's all you need to say. And like, and that way, like you would come out look like as the wronged party. Like, it is pretty extraordinary that he comes out of this looking a million times worse than Olivia.
I don't
and like,
know.
I don't even care about fucking infidelity in relationships. That's only accountable to the people in relationships. Like, it's like not it doesn't bother me one way or the other. Like, it's
right.
That's
It's not
that's
my
your
business.
business. It's none of my business.
Right.
I don't give a shit.
I don't know. I come off of this. I think I may just like find Olivia more annoying. And so I think for me, she automatically comes off worse. They both come off as incredibly annoying people. I think like whatever the next version of Windows is, at random times it's going to have AI Ryan, Lizza, and Olivia Nuzzi call you and just recount different diary entries from their relationship. Like there's something so involuntary about the public's participation in this.
He writes here, so why revisit the ugly Olivia saga that seems like it's from another lifetime? Why get dragged back into this tabloid mess? Why not just let this sordid history dissolve into the past and to move on to covering far more important things? Silence was my preference, and Olivia seemed to agree. Last year, she asked me to go negotiate a non-disclosure agreement. Earlier this year, she sent a message to me via a mutual friend. I will never talk about any of this again, and I hope you will do the same. I'm not sure she delivered that before or after she had the publication date for her book arranged, a Vanity Fair excerpt, and a secured profile in the New York Times. Either way, it wasn't true, and unfortunately, silence no longer seems advisable or even possible. Amor fati, the Stoics advised. Love your fate. I have admired that sentiment more than I have practiced it, but that's the spirit that will guide this series of posts. Like I said, remember this is part one.
I mean, I will admit, I am excited for part two. Like, yeah. I think everyone is very excited to see how Ryan went, okay, last chance after this one.
All right, let's get to the confrontation here. So he says, but one mess at a time. As I tidied up the death, something on the Kimpton stationery caught my eye. I started to read, quote, if I swallowed every drop of water from the tower above your house, Olivia had written, I would still thirst for you. Unfortunately, the lack of a water tower on our Georgetown home's roof ruled me out as the note's intended recipient.
I stop the world and melt with you.
I flipped to another page and saw a name and the first line of an unfinished love letter to him that included enough details to confirm a physical relationship and the hint of some kind of falling out. My heart stopped when I realized who it was. He was a famous politician, 32 years older than Olivia and well known for a sex scandal. But more importantly, he was a presidential candidate, a source, and the subject of Olivia's recent profile for New York. I started to build a mental map of the potential blast zone, ticking through the concentric circles of our lives that her recklessness could shatter, the privacy of my children, the wedding Olivia was pressuring me to plan, her journalism career, our book project. I was not a perfect partner, but the scale of Olivia's betrayal was devastating. She had an affair with someone who would provide the maximum level of humiliation and personal and professional ruin, perhaps for both of us. She later explained to me she became infatuated with him after their interview, that she couldn't get him out of her head, and that as her obsession intensified, she sent him increasingly risque pictures and texts, secretly followed him on the campaign trail when she told me she was out covering other candidates, and fantasized about a rendezvous which was consummated at his home in South Carolina one night after she went dark on me and made up a story about how she was dealing with a crisis concerning her sick mother. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, brother.
Oh my God.
And now we get to the punchline. I was sure our relationship was over, and certainly our book project was dead. She had crossed a journalistic red line. How could we write a book about the presidential campaign if Olivia had had a sexual relationship with one of the candidates? I looked at the date on her aborted letter to Mark, March 5th, 2020, just a few days ago. I called my agent. We have a big problem, I said. Olivia is sleeping with Mark Sanford. There was a lawyer. His name was Kobayashi.
By the way, the hint that it may have been Mark Sanford, I think longtime fans of Mark Sanford will know that he is actually the only writer who can match Olivia and Ryan.
That is true.
Yeah. I always, Mark Sanford's original sex scandal from 2009 always made me laugh because in his love letter that got leaked to the press, he says to that Argentinian woman he was sleeping with, the last week with you has been a whirlwind. One of the funniest things I've ever read.
Oh, man.
I mean, that is kind of a perfect pair. I kind of hope she ends up with Mark Sanford.
Feels like the first time. Oh man. Well, I mean, like I said, I can't wait for part 2 here. But man, as far as a political tea and gossip goes, this week has been pretty fun. Not bad.
No, not bad at all. It is going to be annoying how like she is just going to slowly like slot back into being a normal reporter, probably by the end of this year, if not already. And it really is like, this is really like the one thing you are really like. This should be the end of you being a reporter, right? If it happens twice, if it happens twice.
And like I didn't read it, but like earlier on in the Ryan Lizzo piece, like he talks about like how their relationship has started after he helped rescue her from Keith Olbermann.
Yeah, by the way, he comes off looking the best here.
Dude, he can't shut up about this either. He's like, I also did it. He also did it. Laura Ingraham and Kristen Cinema, and he's like, trust me, though, I've dated a lot of women who weren't evil and insane.
He's lonely. He's like, you know. For me, he's like Feech LaManna. He's old. How do you think that feels? But he's like, he came off like a pimp when he was like, I paid for an apartment and we went on shopping sprees. It's all part of the deal with being with Big K.
He was a pimp. She should have been paying him, not fucking the other way around. I like
the idea of Keith Olbermann like James Woods in Casino.
Yeah.
When Olivia was around.
Look, I got some guys. They need to get taken care of. As soon as they do, you know you're gonna get your money back. Where's that little girl? Right there. Where are you? Right here. All right. I can feel you in the pit of my stomach. I remember the first time I saw you in the MSNBC dressing room, a little wild, blonde-haired cult.
Olivia, he has no idea. He's sitting by the New Yorker fact-checking department like a dummy.
This is the best thing for you right now.
Come on, we could go to Europe. You could get surgery like I always wanted.
You could be the West Coast Vanity Fair editor. It was your dream. Now we're doing it. Let's go.
Keith Olbermann calls her daughter the worst person in the world.
I don't know. I think it is untoward of a gentleman to be fucking kissing and telling like this. To be fucking like putting your even an ex-girlfriend that you don't like. I just think I think it's bitch like tendencies. Like I think you should have more fucking self-respect. You should be fucking actually be stoic about it. Don't be fucking like selling your fucking dirty laundry for likes and attention and fucking sympathy from the public when you should just like clam up. Just keep that shit to yourself. You can dish to your close friends. You can enjoy the self-immolation of someone who wronged you. But in this relationship shit, it's just like, keep your mouth shut, man. Stop talking about people you used to fuck. It's embarrassing.
Yeah. And I would say that goes for both parties here. Oh God. We're going to be stuck. I mean, Ryan Lizzo, I don't expect for him to have a big mainstream comeback, but like, we're going to be stuck with Olivia Nuzzi for like another 70 years.
Oh, wait. Okay, so if Keith Olbermann is James Woods, then that would make RFK Jr. Nikki.
Yeah. He's perfect.
Olivia, do you need a new sponsor? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I've seen a lot of beautiful girls ruin their looks with flu shots. The hole in my brain gang.